and the student is walking with the teacher and he's very annoyed. Few days he doesn't talk to the teacher, and finally he says, "Teacher, I need to leave you now because it seems that I have chosen a wrong teacher who breaks all the laws. You break the law of monkhood. You actually forget seeing a woman. You carried her on your back." And the teacher replies, "Student, okay, I did carry her at that moment in the river when she needed it, but I dropped her on the shore. You picked it up from there and you're still carrying it last 3 days. It's very unfortunate." And that is what exactly this chapter is all about. You cannot hold on to things. If you hold on to things, they just become the reason of all the worry in the world. Things are based on the conditions. Your actions are based on the conditions and situations. Never hold on to conceptual ways in finalizing or deciding things. So, very good morning to everyone. Uh, Here we are again to continue our series of talks, especially while studying the Diamond Sutra with me, Dr. Savera, to studying the Diamond Sutra, also known as the Vajrachedika Pragya Paramita Sutra. This one is what we call as it is, because this is translated by our very own beloved Dr. Lim, also known as Acharya Nagajiva. Here we need to understand that this particular sutra is translated to Chinese from Sanskrit by Tripitaka Acharya Kumarajiv, translated to English from Chinese by Dhyanacharya Nagajiv. Here also very important to note that there is no attempt at interpretation or any explanation of the sutra by the translator. So we have presented this sutra, Dr. Lim has presented this sutra as it is. So there's nowhere there is an attempt to explain it or give his opinion about it. And that gives us the chance to think and to understand it according to our situation. So we are not bound by his explanation, but we get to hear the words of the Buddha as it is. And that is very, very important here. So this particular copy that we are studying is the as it is Vajrachedika Pragya Paramita Sutra, also known as the Diamond Sutra. If you recap, we did the 4 chapters. The first one was the event leading to the assembly, where we saw the importance of the word "thus have I heard," because "thus have I heard" is only for the things that were taken down as notes when the Buddha used to speak. So this was a live note-taking sessions, and hence every session that was recorded live in a written format will always have "thus have I heard" as a statement. And so the setting was that the Buddha was in Shravasti at the Jetavana Grove, Anantapindika Park, with an assembly of 1,250 great monks. Before mealtime, Bhagwan put on his robe, holding his bowl, entered the great city of Shravasti from house to house to beg for food. The Bhagwan then returned to the retreat, took his meal, put away the robe and bowl, washed his feet, arranged his seating, and sat down to focus his mind and meditate. This is very important because this first chapter, the event leading to assembly, taught us how we should do our duty. If a Buddha can perform his duty, take care of himself, I think that talks about being independent and taking responsibility of your own actions and your deeds. Then we went to chapter 2, the inquiry from an elder. So at that time, the elder Subhuti from the great assembly arose from his seat, uncovered his right shoulder, knelt on his right knee, clasped his hand in respect, and asked Buddha, "How rare is the Bhagavan? The Tathagat is skillful in endorsing all bodhisattvas, skillful in teaching the bodhisattvas. Bhagavan, when a virtuous man or a virtuous woman wishes to attain the state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, how should they focus their mind and how can they control their thoughts?" The Buddha said, Excellent, excellent, Subhuti. As you have stated, the Buddha, the Tathagata, is skillful in endorsing all bodhisattvas, skillful in instructing the bodhisattvas. Now listen, and I shall explain to you how a virtuous man or a virtuous woman who wishes to attain the state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi should focus their mind and control their thoughts. Yes, Bhagwan, I am glad to listen. So this was, the second chapter was about the main question that was posed by Subhuti to Buddha, and where how Buddha reconfirms the questions and then sets up the whole stage for the teachings of the Diamond Sutra. Then we went to the third chapter that says, vow to save all beings. Buddha instructed Subhuti, bodhisattvas and mahasattvas should control their thoughts as follows. All types of beings, whether born from eggs, from womb, from moisture, or by transformations, whether they have forms or are formless, whether they have thoughts or are thoughtless, have non-thought nor no non-thought, I shall lead them into perfect nirvana. Moreover, when these immeasurable, countless, infinite number of beings have been liberated, in actuality, no being has attained liberation, as all beings are name and form and just illusions. Why is this so? Subhuti, if a bodhisattva attaches to the name and form of selves, people, beings, or existence, then she or he is not a bodhisattva. So, in the third chapter, we got to understand exactly what a bodhisattva is and how one can, perform his duty without being attached to the result of it. Saying that even after saving all the beings, in actuality there were no beings saved. So that applies even to Buddha himself, who promises to liberate all beings, but in actuality he liberates no one. Then we went to chapter 4, practice without attachment. Furthermore, Subhuti, while practicing dharma, the bodhisattvas, when giving alms, should not attach to the form. Giving alms without attachment to form and giving alms without attachment to sound, odor, taste, touch, or thoughts. Why is this so? If bodhisattvas give alms without attachment to forms, their merits are immeasurable. Subhuti, what do you think? The space in the east, can you measure it? It is immeasurable, Bhagwan. Subhuti, are the south, west, and the north spaces, the intermediate directions, the zenith and the nadir measurable? They are immeasurable, Bhagwan. Subhuti, similarly, the merit received by bodhisattvas who give alms without attachment to form is immeasurable. Subhuti, the bodhisattvas should follow this teaching to focus their mind. In this chapter, the practice without attachment, Buddha clearly states how one can practice or perform his duties, without attachment. And thereby, doing so, he is able to focus his mind. So, by not being attached, one is able to focus his mind. And this all sets up for us to move to our chapter 5. Okay, people who have not understood these 4 chapters can watch the previous episodes, but we continue with chapter 5. Now here in the chapter 5, the real form of Buddha, that's the title that our translator, Dr. Lim, Venerable Nagajiva, has given us, the real form of Buddha. So now, Subhuti, Buddha is asking Subhuti, what do you think? Can one see the Tathagat by his bodily forms? The question is very simple. Now, as he had explained, immeasurable, you giving your alms without being attached, how many merits one can get, the bodhisattvas, and defining who a bodhisattva is. So a bodhisattva basically, if we understand, or mahasattva is basically a virtuous man and a virtuous woman. We also saw that a virtuous man and virtuous woman is the one who follows the Panchashil, the 5 Shilas. Okay, and he also defined that the bodhisattvas are ones who do their duty without attachment. And hence, we now are getting a clear idea of who a bodhisattva is. Now, when I say bodhisattva, here it interprets refers to the person who is on the path of achieving bodhi, or the essence of bodhi, the realization. And he is on the path of becoming a Buddha. So when you have to attain that liberation, you have to understand that what a bodhisattva means. So Subhuti, the question is asked by Buddha, what do you think? Can one see the Tathagata by his bodily forms? Means, is it possible, Subhuti, this is what Buddha is asking, that one can see the Tathagata by his bodily forms? And Subhuti, the elder one, answers this question very nicely, saying, no, Bhagavan. One cannot see the Tathagata by his bodily forms. Look at this. The question is straight, the answer is straight. Now, he did not go on expounding the answer. The question was yes or no. And he answered it with a simple no. You cannot see the Bodhisattva, you cannot see the Tathagata by his bodily forms. Now, Buddha is asking him, why is this so? Please explain. Why do you think like that? The bodily forms taught by the Tathagata are not forms. Now, when the Tathagata is teaching about the bodily forms, technically Subhuti understands they are not forms. Okay? The Buddha said to Subhuti, agreeing to what he said, all things that have formed are false and deceptive. Okay? If you see all forms as non-form, then you see the Tathagata. So, very, very important. Buddha is asking Subhuti, why is this so? That why do you say that you cannot see the Tathagata by his bodily forms? Because the chapter is the real form of Buddha. Okay? And when Buddha is asked, can you see me in a bodily form? Subhuti is saying no. Then Buddha asks him why? Because the Buddha, all the forms that the Tathagata teaches are basically not forms. He understands that. Because form is nothing but, as Buddha explains, they are false and deceptive. If you see all forms as non-forms, means if you see something that is dynamic, as dynamic, not something dynamic as static, then you see the whole dynamism around it. And the world around us is all in a flux. And because it's in a flux, you cannot hold on to a particular concept or belief or system, or you cannot have a form, because see, an image is a form. Once you go into a state of putting something in a particular form, you have an image created. This image becomes the imagination. So very, very important. So all things that have formed are false and deceptive. They are false and deceptive because they are not permanent. They are impermanent. They will immediately transform. Like our body, a body, what I was, say 20 years ago, or say another 40 years ago, and what I am now is keep on changing. So I cannot say that, oh, this one is not Rajesh. The previous 120 years back one was Rajesh. No, I keep on changing. The 20 years afterward, somebody that I will look like is still going to be Rajesh. So these forms are false and deceptive. See, if you see all forms as non-form, so you don't fix yourself, and you see them as non-form, then you see the Tathagata. That is very, very important. And here the word Gata means the one who, like they say, who comes like that and goes like that, who doesn't stick around, like every moment comes and goes. Every word, Tatha means like this. Gatha also means, some say is coming and going. Some also say Gatha means to speak. The one who spoke as it is. So when you have to understand the Tathagata, you have to understand he's speaking as it is. So things, when he looks at the sunrise, he says it's a beautiful sunrise. When he looks at the afternoon, say it's a scorching hot sun. And then when the evening the sun is setting, he says, wow, what a beautiful sunset. Right? Cool and nice. So the same sun in different situation explained in different way based on what the reality is. Reality in the experience of the moment as it is. So very, very important. So can you see the Buddha in a particular form? No. Seeing him in non-form is the best way of seeing the Tathagata. Okay, and this is what it. So take-home message is very simple. From this chapter, we see that Buddha is not in a fixed form. Tathagata is not in a fixed form. He's in an ever-changing flux. He's everywhere, in everything that manifests around us or is not manifested. He's there. So technically, everything that exists is basically the Tathagata. And that is why you cannot have him in a fixed form. So this is very important. Now, how does this apply in practical life? Now let us take because we are here studying the Diamond Sutra to also apply in life. So when you look at things, if you hold on to things and you say that this is a fixed concept, then that's where things stop moving. You have to understand that things are ever changing, and hence they are ever changing. I need to be always on the guard. I need to always be aware of what I need to do. My actions change according to my situations. My roles and responsibilities change according to my situation. So my conditions that are around me help me decide what I need to do. And that action is so important only because I can only act when I know the conditions. And that means my awareness is the key for me to act. If I am not aware, then I am just acting based on conditions. And based on conditions, based on conditioning, then I will lead myself into the same process of suffering that I have been conditioned for. For example, a family who is struggling to survive, poverty or tough life, if the person does not realize that, hey, my bank does not have enough money, I have a lot of responsibilities to fulfill, I need to be aware that I need to do something to give my family a good sustainable income so that they can fulfill their basic needs. At that moment, the awareness itself is going to put him into act. Many a times people sit and cry over their situation, condition, saying that, oh, we are poor, we are like this, our life is so messy, what should I do? And they keep on cribbing and cribbing. And this cribbing conditions them to more crib more. They feel miserable. And the more they cry in misery, the more miserable they get. So at that point, they don't even have the awareness that it's time to wake up. Wake up to realize your situation. Wake up to act based on what your situation is. Get up and go to work. Even a single step taken today towards work will begin a transformation in your condition. Conditioning has to be cultivated, and over a period of time, it becomes an automated process. The best example for this is our own Dr. Lim. He struggled in his initial phase of life. Life was tough, not easy. He had situations where he also had to eat half stomach when he was a kid. The family situation was not good. But today, because he realized and he was aware of his situation, he could create an empire that now takes care of almost around 18 million people. So this is the change that was brought because Dr. Lim realized at a very early stage that he has to take the responsibility to change his own life, not somebody else. Realizing what my conditions are, being aware of my situation, I shall act. That is the only message. So, not having a fixed idea or concept into seeing things, but seeing things as dynamically as they change, and them changing accordingly as dynamically as needed. Hence, a dynamic personality is created because you don't have a static thought process. You don't have a static thinking, okay? Because a static person does not change. But a dynamic person always, always, and always keeps on changing and transforming the world. So very, very important. So the real form of Buddha is not a fixed form, but a dynamic form. And you can see the Buddha, basically, you can see him through his teachings. So sutras are one of the ways. You can see the Buddha through your practice of shilas. So Panchashila are the way through which you can see. So the spoken word of Buddha is basically the acts that we do. Our Panchashil, our duty, this is where you will see the Buddha. Okay, so very, very important chapter. Fifth chapter will always remind you that do not have a fixed concept. Do not even see the Buddha in a form. You have to see him in non-form. Okay, let's move forward to the sixth chapter. True faith is rare. Okay, now here is very important. Subhuti addressed the Buddha saying, Bhagwan, will there be beings upon hearing these words and sentences believe it to be true? Obvious. a question like that, because Subhuti understands that you can see the Buddha in non-form, and by seeing him in non-form is actually seeing him. It's pretty confusing for somebody who will read that on the first go. So Subhuti naturally addressed the Buddha saying, Bhagwan, will there be beings upon hearing these words and sentences believe it to be true? He's creating a question of doubt. Whether people will believe what this particular sentence says or believe this to be true? The Buddha said to Subhuti, do not say so. In the last 500 years after my passing away, okay? Now, Buddha is the one who knows all. So he knows his past lifetime also. So he's reminding Subhuti, Subhuti, don't doubt, don't say so. In the last 500 years after my passing away, those who practice moral discipline and cultivate merit can have faith in these words and accept them as truth. So he's saying that after I have passed away, he can see the past and the future, right, the Buddha? So when he's saying that after my passing away, after 500 years also, those who practice moral discipline, that is, practice the Shilas, the Panchashila, and cultivate merit. Now, how do you cultivate merit? We learned in the previous chapter. By doing your duty, by giving alms without attachment. Okay, you remember we learned that you can get immeasurable merits when you are not attached with the work you do when you're giving alms. So, Panchashila, and that is the basic qualification for you to be on the path of virtuous man and virtuous woman and to qualify as a bodhisattva. And second is to giving alms without attachment. So, those who practice moral discipline and cultivate merit can have faith in these words and accept them as truth. You should know that they have not merely planted virtuous roots with one Buddha, two Buddhas, 3, 4 or 5 Buddhas. They have planted all kinds of virtuous roots with countless of numerous of thousands of Buddhas. Now this is very, very important. Now it says that goodness also is not a choice that comes up automatically. So what Subhuti doubted, that will anybody believe this to be true, these sentences to be true. So Buddha is telling him, even after 500 years after my passing away, okay, those who have practiced moral discipline and cultivated merit, because to practice moral discipline and to cultivate merit is also a condition which cannot happen like I choose today and I want to change. It doesn't happen. You have been conditioned over lifetimes. So this time when you get a chance, you immediately convert and you start transforming. So there you might meet people, you might tell them about Panchashila. It sounds good to them, but they cannot practice it because they are not conditioned over lifetimes to practice it. They have to work very hard to follow this Panchashila. But there would be some who immediately follow it because they have been conditioned over lifetimes to follow it. So Buddha is reminding Subhuti that those who practice the Panchashila and who are cultivating merit can have faith in these words and accept them as truth. They will be the ones who will have faith and accept them as truth. Not because they make a choice, because you should know that they have not merely planted their virtuous roots. Now here very important, virtuous roots, because they have, when you do an act, when you do something, you are actually rooting yourself so that it sprouts up or becomes a tree, right? So your virtuous act and deeds are giving rise to the tree of virtuosity. It means you will become more virtuous over a period of time. So every cultivated virtuous act is basically, or thought, is basically going to cultivate a tree. So he is saying, not merely planted virtuous roots with one Buddha. Not that with one Buddha he was able to achieve this. Right? Now, that means not even 2 Buddhas, not even 3 Buddhas, 4 Buddhas or 5 Buddhas. Means not with 1 session or not with 2 session or 3 session or 4 session or 5 session of transformation. But they have planted all kinds of virtuous roots with countless of numerous thousands of Buddhas. So immeasurable Buddhas. They have been like that. So somebody being good or somebody being virtuous is basically a conditioning over lifetimes. And his association with the Buddhas has not been just one momentary one, but has been through lifetimes. And that is why he is very, very sure any being upon hearing these verses and sentences will give rise to pure faith in just a single moment. Subhuti, the Tathagat, fully knows and fully sees these beings shall receive countless merits. So he is reminding Subhuti, any being, upon hearing these verses and sentences, will give rise to pure faith in just a single moment. Now, you see, you're saying something, and when you teach, why the reason why we teach Diamond Sutra is there might be so many countless beings who have gone through lifetimes of virtuous, cultivating virtuous roots. And when they hear the Diamond Sutra, they suddenly have this kind of a pure faith that triggers within them in just a single moment. Such people, Subhuti, the Tathagata says, I fully know that he fully knows and fully sees these beings shall receive countless merits. He knows that these people will receive countless merits. You know why? Because only those who have actually practiced morality, virtuous man and virtuous woman who wanted to achieve the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, who practiced the giving alms without attachment, were supposed to get immeasurable merits. And those who have been practicing all these with thousands and numerous Buddhas over lifetimes have, when they hear these sentences and verses, in a split of a second, they have this pure faith cultivate within them. They suddenly start liking the verses of the Diamond Sutra. They are because they have been conditioned to do so. And the Tathagata knows that these are the ones that shall receive countless merits. Not, you cannot count them, because they are the true bodhisattvas who are actually giving and doing their duties without expectation, without attachment. And hence, the Tathagata is very, very sure that they will receive countless merits. Now, again, why is this so? These beings no longer attached to self, people, beings, or existence. Remember when we said not being attached? Again, he's reminded. With these beings, when they have the split second of happiness, when they hear a verse or a sentence, they have. It's like amnesia, you know. It's like me right now. I suddenly meet with an accident and I don't remember anything. Then everybody come up to me and I still cannot remember. But suddenly there is a particular person who comes in front of me, reminds me something, and I suddenly have a split of a kind of unhappiness. But that word, I don't know why, but I know. So somebody realizes, oh, now he's getting his memory back. So exactly like that, the happiness that is cultivated by even coming close to the Diamond Sutra or any of the sutras is because of the lifetimes of their association with it. And these beings no longer attached to self, people, beings, or existence, nor do they attach to dharma or non-dharma, because they are practicing non-attachment. They do not have a fixed idea, a fixed concept. They are dynamic and they become the flux that what existence is, ever changing dynamically. Okay, why is this so? If these beings are attached to names and forms, okay, nama rupa, then they will cling to self, people, beings, or existence. If they attach to dharma, they will cling to self, people, beings, or existence. That's where the differentiation comes in. And one starts seeing something differently. So, because these beings are not attached, okay, they do not cling on to this concept of self, that's me, my, I, okay, they do not cling to the concept of people, they, them, their, okay, they do not cling to the concept of being here, being there, beings, these beings and that beings, okay, they do not even hold on to the concept of existence separate from themselves, okay. That is why they are able to cultivate these immeasurable merits. Why is this so? If they attach to false dharma, okay, not even the right dharma, even the false dharma, then they will cling to self, people, beings, or existence too. Therefore, one should not attach to dharma nor the false dharma. Now, when I say dharma, here it is very clear that it's a particular, everything has a particular law that works along. Even we are living in a world that is governed by laws. We have to respect that laws. even the law of impermanence. Okay, we have to respect that. We should realize that we are basically an impermanent being. Okay, this impermanence is the law. This body is going to shed off someday. Everything that we have someday is going to go away. When we respect this law, we abide by the law, we are then basically following the law. That is dharma. But there should not be attachment to that. Because, oh, everything is going to go away, everything is going to this, then doing nothing is also attachment. Because you hold on to that. Okay, no, don't hold on to that. What is there, it is there right now. So I have to do my duty. I know it is impermanent, but right now, at this moment, I exist, and in this existence, I need to contribute. So I do my duty. So again, if this is the idea, what about false dharma? Means something that is not even the law. You have a concept. Attaching to that will be the real and foolish thing. If you're not supposed to attach to the real dharma, you're also not supposed to attach to false dharma. Definitely we understand that. So based on this understanding, the Tathagata always says, monks, my teaching is like a raft. Now here it is very important. Even Buddha is clarifying, first he's telling that do not be attached to anything, even the dharma. Forget the non-dharma, that you don't have to attach. But even the dharma, and he's teaching the dharma. So now he says, based on this understanding, the Tathagata always says, monks, my teaching is like a raft to be discarded upon the shore. That is in bracket because that's what it means. A raft is basically supposed to just carry you across. A teaching is only to help you develop a kind of knowledge. Training is only to help you acquire a skill. It is nothing that you need to hold on to. After you acquire, you have to leave it at that shore. And that's exactly what a raft is. You need to discard the raft upon the shore once you cross it. You cannot carry the raft along. Okay? So, even the true dharmas should be discarded. How much so the false dharmas? Even the true dharmas, even the understanding, the Diamond Sutra, after I have understood it, I cannot just hold on to it and say, now I'm going to worship it and that's it. Now nothing else. This is the... No. You have to cross over with the means of the Diamond Sutra, have an understanding, see things as it is. But once you cross over, you have to keep it like that. You don't need to hold it and to grab onto or cling onto it. You have to let it go. So that if that is true with the real dharma, how about the false dharmas? You definitely need to let them go because they definitely are false. So very, very important that you realize that this is about the raft that we have to let go after we cross the shores. Now, so this brings us to the end of the chapter. Okay, but in this we learned a very important thing. Okay, that the Tathagata is teaching us that even don't be attached to him as a teacher. He's giving you a teaching. And if you look at the 9 no's, we take one of the no's that comes from Diamond Sutra. All the 9 no's come from Diamond Sutra. No teaching is exactly what this means. There is no teaching. There is only a way of understanding. Okay, where Buddha is trying to explain, we have to understand. The reason we will understand it is because in the countless lifetimes before, we have cultivated virtuous roots and merits to acquire those, or to even get the opportunity to listen to the words. Because not everybody gets the opportunity. There are many out there. Not everybody get the opportunity to listen to the words because maybe they have not cultivated the merits or they are not destined to hear the words. So when we hear them, and if you have a split second of happiness, of understanding, and you have that true faith that comes in, then you should understand that this faith is not because I just had it. It's not your choice because it was over a period of years and years of lifetimes, your association with not 1 or 2 or 3 Buddhas, but countless number of Buddhas that you were able to get this. So very, very important. Now, that brings us to a situation where we should not worry who is going to accept the teachings or not. Our job is to set the fire. Okay? All the grass that has the potency to burn will burn. The ones that don't have will not burn. And it's okay. So everybody will not accept this because we still are cultivating the virtuous roots and they are still cultivating the basic principles that will help them to, in some day, acquire the ability to have the the skill set to understand the Dharma as it is. So those who have even the slightest second feeling of happiness when you read the sutra, okay, then you will be able to realize how powerful this is to help you trigger your innate nature that you personally have been cultivating over lifetimes. That is why it is said that wherever you find the Diamond Sutra, all the disciples of Buddha, they all gather together because it is very natural. As soon as the Diamond Sutra words are said, it's like a lion roar. All the disciples will come together. And that's exactly what Shunya is doing around the world. As we go openly to teach the Diamond Sutra, you see people coming across. They might understand or don't understand, but they feel good when they listen to Diamond Sutra. And that is because they have cultivated merits over so many lifetimes. Okay, so I think that brings us to almost the end of the second chapter. Yeah, what is it, Dhruv? Yeah. So yeah, Dhruv wanted to give me an example. So remember, there is a very beautiful story about a monk. Two monks. Zen story. This is two monks were traveling. One was a teacher, the other student. Then the teacher, basically they are monks. They don't need to touch a woman, not even see them. So forget touching them. And one of the, you can see a woman was in the flood, was almost drowning in the river. So she asks for help, and the teacher goes out and picks her up on the back. You can see the picture, and wants to take her across the shore. So the student is very much, in awe. Why did my teacher touch a woman? Pick her up and brought her to the other shore. And the teacher drops her there, and the student is walking with the teacher, and he's very annoyed. Few days he doesn't talk to the teacher, and finally he says, "Teacher, I need to leave you now, because it seems that I have chosen a wrong teacher who breaks all the laws. You break the law of monkhood. You actually forget seeing a woman, you carried her on your back." And the teacher replies, "Student, okay, I did carry her at that moment in the river when she needed it, but I dropped her on the shore. You picked it up from there, and you're still carrying it last 3 days. It's very unfortunate." And that is what exactly this chapter is all about. You cannot hold on to things. If you hold on to things, they just become the reason of all the worry in the world. Things are based on the conditions. Your actions are based on the conditions and situations. Never hold on to conceptual ways in finalizing or deciding things. Okay, so that's a good story. Yeah, it goes well with this particular chapter, and it reminds us that yes, we do our duty without attachment. We don't hold on to things. We keep on doing our duty, because we are the school, the Shunya school of duty doers. Okay, so thank you so much. We will catch up again next week, and we continue with chapter 7 and 8. Yeah, that will be another interesting thing, because every time we read the Diamond Sutra, it unreveals the mysteries of almost 2,500 years of teachings of the Buddha himself, and we should be grateful for that. So thank you so much, and see you next time. Bye-bye.